So where exactly did polyamory and polygamy become taboo? You know, where did these things kind of fall in or out of popularity in the United States and the world over? I know we had some of these conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Well, are you about to add context to what?
Oh, I was about to answer, but
Oh no,
you
no,
have
go
something
ahead.
else
No,
to
go
say.
ahead.
And please.
I'm just going to say whatever's coming to mind for you. As you were asking the question, what was coming up for me was like, you said the white man, right? Mm-hmm. And actually, the first thing that came to mind for me was Disney, like the Disney fairy tales, right? Of like idealized romantic love, right? And then another thought that came to me is mass media.
Yeah.
When suddenly you can like make a movie and it's played all over the nation and everybody is consuming the same story, right? Then suddenly you have control over the culture, right? Because if you look back before those times, like when you look back to like the 1800s, you're looking back at Victorian times. Like we have this idea of what the Victorian times were, and then there's what the Victorian times actually were. Right. They don't have pictures of that. Right?
And what were they like for people who may not know? Or
have you what's coming to mind for me is like, have you ever looked up like Catherine the Great?
I've never Googled.
She
Catherine
loved sex.
Yes.
She had like tables with like boobs and cocks and balls and all over the place. She had like orgies all the time, right? That's my image of like the Victorian era that isn't taught. Like we're not shown that, right?
Well, it's control. So when they said the white man or white people, and then you're leaning in and even, building a even deeper context of like the outcome, which is, I know that if I've waved this magic wand and I know if I can control your mind from 0 to 7 years old, including making sure that your parents get you this Snow White, I want to be Snow White, I want to be whatever these Disney characters are. You create these cute, cuddly, supposedly beautiful images that now everyone is mesmerized into thinking we have to be. And a lot of that, I think, is really just control of the female body at the core and context. If I can make you feel like your body doesn't belong to you and that you don't have a body until it is impacted by a man, and all you will be is someone who will bear children. You will actually be property of a man. That's your womanhood. That's it.
The beauty is it is sold as your greatest dream and your greatest hope ever.
That a man will come along now
and choose you.
Now, for those of you who still subscribe to that, and that is your dream and your fantasy, great. In the context of polyamory, I would love to have a discussion that really leans in and provides a full context so that maybe in this short time we have together, we can build a better understanding of maybe why, how. Because as soon as I say that I'm poly, there are these conversations and questions that come up like, aren't you just greedy? Or, why do you have to have, more than one person? Isn't that a lot? You're already busy, do a lot with work. And I mean, like, why are we?
The other misconception is that it is less honorable to be poly. I think that people, and I keep saying this, we're so intoxicated by the role with monogamous relationships that people are so fixated on what the role is, they're not even thinking about what they're doing within it. And many people are in poly relationships
and don't even know it.
But they're in these roles, right? And so we're not being honest about what we're actually doing, what we actually need. And on the poly tip, you really have to have a level of maturity. Your conversation and your communication has to be intact, or all your stuff's going to crumble. So we have to really talk about what type of person you really need to be to have a successful and healthy poly relationship. Because I think it's just too easy for people to throw it under greedy and throw it as an immature expression when there's so much maturity necessary.
I think polyamory is courageous love.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I think it's courageous love because you're willing to be honest with someone and say, I love other people, or I will be seeing other people, whereas most people who subscribe to the monogamous route will be in a relationship, and after they get so-called bored, or maybe this particular need is being fulfilled, but there's this other need over here, so you see someone out, or it's your work buddy, now you're winking and you're talking, all of a sudden, I'm in another relationship. Now your friends know, and it's like, yeah, it is that fast. I'm just kidding. But, let's get real, y'all. Polyamory, if you are honest about it and you're willing to have those conversations, it's courageous love.
Absolutely.
And you're literally loving someone else during the process of, feeling for someone else or being there for someone else. And if you can have that with honesty and security in yourself, it's one of the most amazing things you can experience. Now, does it always work? I don't know. Steve?
Right. Hello. So let's take this opportunity to talk about agreements and what that looks like. As someone who previously identified as bisexual, I got the greedy conversation all the time. Constantly. It was like this thing where it's like, I'm actually not dating most people because I don't want to. How could I be greedy? Just because I think about it? That's weird. But when it comes to agreements, I was in a hetero relationship with a man that I loved and found out that he was dating other women, while on dates with me.
Oh, wow.
He was that slick, or I was that daft. Anyway, I'm going to hand the microphone over to the coach so that we can talk about some agreements and what healthy poly structures look like.
Okay. So actually, there's something that came up for me, is that what you were saying, people have been doing it for a long time, and what came up for me is because I dance, I'm a blues dancer, and we listen to all kinds of blues music. And there's a lot of blues songs, a lot of country songs are about somebody cheating on somebody else.
Come on,
right? So it's been happening for a long time, right? Now you're talking about agreements. If it's cheating, then they don't have an agreement to do that.
Come on,
right? But polyamory or ethical non-monogamy, which is more a broader term, is about taking it out of the cheating realm and bringing it into the light so everybody can see it, and that you can actually talk about what's going on rather than having it hide in the shadows and jump out at you and scare the crap out of you. Right?
Going through your phone.
Yeah.
Thank you. So we're really talking about a distinction between fidelity and monogamy. There's a difference between having conversations, really talking things through, and just buying into these rules. I mean, almost what you were saying, Melorra, it was almost biblical. You belong to this man. This is the life that you live, and these things. And those are things that we naturally subscribe to.
Well, you know why I said that, right? I mean, there's this boys club or gentlemen's club where it's created thanks to patriarchy, right? There's this underground club where most men, and I'm sorry, I hang out with a lot of dudes, just saying, honest conversations, there's this underground thing where, you'll get married, but you know what you're gonna do. And that's a thing. That is a thing. Even if it's and also that men don't tell on each other. So you could be with a woman, you can have a friend that you've grown up with, meet the person that she's gonna be with, see him out because you out or not with someone else, and on a man's code that generationally passed down, like, you know, when are you gonna have your first? These are like conversations that boys are poised to have, like, but then the girl has to be good. So if the girl is supposed to be good, then who are the boys supposed to be bad with? So it's like this double thing, like, but we're primed to just look at one man, to only belong to him, while he gets to, and I'm not a male bash, I'm just being honest, this is things that people don't want to talk about, but he is primed to, yes, be with her, marry her, pay for her, all whatever that's supposed to look like, right? And still be able to fulfill on other passions or seeing someone else. And it's just this whole other way that men are allowed and praised to be.
Well, it's also like the way you do it. You're not a dog unless you just so cold that everybody knows. You know, if you keep it tight, then you're a real man. And inside of your role, that's a good man and a good husband. Nobody found out. But it's like, inside the role, you kind of blew it. You know what I mean? But nobody cares about that. Just don't mess up the flow. And so when we start throwing around these poly words, that's messing up the flow, y'all.
It really
because
is.
no one wants to be exposed. What, anybody else have anything to share?
I totally agree. I mean,
well, I was gonna say even your description of that. I think definitely you see that, you feel that, you plenty of people experience that. It seems to that attitude of it being cool or it being okay, I wonder how much of that is a religious based idea, right? So we're going to keep the family together, and you're going to just kind of do whatever you need to keep the family together. Now, I probably am in the relative minority in that, honestly, I don't really know much about polyamory except that I know that I date around, you know. I date around until I get into a relationship. And then when I'm in the relationship, I'm pretty like, yeah, so like this is, you know. And so, you know, I was just sitting here thinking, like, you know, I think people should do what the hell they want.
Yeah.
You know, whatever it is that makes you happy, and whoever you're in a relationship or relationships with, if they are cool with all of that and y'all are all happy, like,
go on.
Absolutely. But I think, though, that there probably are some people who probably just like penguins or, you know, whatever, they just they pair up, you know, they pair up, and they're really into that type of relationship as well. And I mean, I guess we all, you know, at some point have to just take a peek at ourselves and our relationship lives, and if it's healthy, if it's not, are you fulfilled, or you want more, you know, and just kind of evaluate. So I'm just more sort of taking in the conversation, but that was just something I was thinking about it just as you were mentioning that. Yeah.
I think, you know, when I think about what you just said and going back to what Steve said in the beginning, you know, just consider that when we were born, right, there's this blanket of reality that was given to us. But you don't really know what you like. You really don't know what you like. You don't even know what's natural to you. You know what was given to you, and sometimes it's hard to burst out of that. But if you weren't given the fairy tale story and you saw your parents have healthy poly dynamics, would you really desire what you desire? Would you really feel the way you feel? Like if polyamory was normalized, would you feel the opposite? Would you go, well, if people have to have